world's largest archipelago is in chaos. Indonesia's government is facing strong headwinds. Extravagant perks for the lawmakers, police violence and rising inflation has fueled this anger. Protests began last Thursday. Triggering point was the housing perks received by the lawmakers. The amount was $3,000 a month, that is 10 times the average wage of a person living in Jakarta. This show of anger and dissent against the government quickly spread across the different parts of the country. During the initial hours of protests, demonstrators approached the parliament, where the thing got tensed and then turned violent. Protesters hurled stones at the police that responded with tear gas. The situation deteriorated further after a vehicle of country's police allegedly ran over a taxi driver. At least 6 people have died in the violence that followed. Protesters torched regional parliament building in Makassar, killing 3 people trapped inside as the flames spread. The home of Indonesia's finance minister Sri Mulyani was also ransacked. The growing turmoil forced President Prabowo Subianto to reverse course. He has now pledged to scrap lawmakers' perks, including a controversial $3,000 housing allowance.
The leaders of the People's Representative Council have reported that they will revoke some of their policies, including the amount of allowances for members of parliament and a moratorium on official visits abroad.
Country's capital has been forfeited. Soldiers are patrolling the vicinity of Parliament. The armored vehicles have been deployed to safeguard the building. Country's defense minister has issued a sharp warning. The officers will not hesitate to take firm action.
Officers will not hesitate to take firm action against rioters and looters who entered private areas or state institutions that have been ensured to always be in safe condition.
As of now, the streets of Indonesia are relatively calm. Major students and civil society groups have suspended the demonstrations. But the next wave of protests looms, as demonstrations are yet to be called off. For now, the forces are holding the line. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
US President Donald Trump has vowed to undertake major voting reforms. Trump wants to bring end to mail bailouts and make voter IDs mandatory for every voter. The move was announced by the US President on his social media site Truth Social. He said, "Voter ID must be a part of every single vote, no exceptions." The reason behind Trump's move is his allegation of voter fraud in 2020 elections. He says the elections were stolen, but there are no proofs to substantiate the claim. The executive order is likely to be challenged in the court. According to the United States Constitution, states are entrusted to make voting rules, not the president. Trump himself is a known user of mail bailouts in the 2024 elections, that he voted using a mail bailout there. Not just that, Trump won half of the 14 states and Washington, D.C., where voter turnout by mail exceeded 30%. This is not the first time that the US president has vowed electoral reforms. Last month, he vowed to eliminate voting machines, which he described as inaccurate, expensive, and controversial. US President claimed that Democrats cheat at levels never seen before. Critics argue that Trump is taking a multi-pronged approach to clinch midterm elections, from redistricting battle to perhaps sending National Guards to Democrat-ruled cities. The blue camp says these are calculated moves from the US president to ensure victory in 2026 midterms.
Because of what's happened, massive fraud all over the place. The other thing, we're going to do everything.
All right, and that's the news from the United States of America, where US President Donald Trump wants to get rid of mail-in votes. And he says that the previous elections was fraud because of the mail-in votes. But ironically, he himself used the same method in the previous election. For more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is now joining us live from New York. Hi, Susan. Talk to us about this plan of the US president, where he wants an election overhaul and he wants to get rid of the mail-in ballots.
Yeah, so he wants whoever goes to vote to have a proper ID, and he also wants to get rid of mail-in ballots unless someone is extremely ill or the military that are serving overseas. He's also vowed to ultimately get rid of voting machines and go with only paper ballots where it could be hand counted. Now, the issue with that is, there are a lot of concerns about what happens with the elections here and how accurate they are. But states ultimately have to decide on their voting rules and regulations. The president doesn't have the authority. So this is probably going to get settled in the courts like so many other things. And also, there is this concern that, there are women who have changed their last names. They haven't changed their IDs. They might not be able to vote on time. So the issue with voter ID, while it's justified, it causes some concern for some groups of people as well. But nonetheless, the president can't just do this with a sweep of a pen. It's definitely going to go all the way to the Supreme Court, like so many other things.
Right, Susan, thanks for getting us the latest on this. Well, Christine Lagarde, president of the European Central Bank, has issued a fresh warning about the risks to the U.S. economy if the Federal Reserve's independence is undermined. Speaking to France's Radio Classique, she said that political interference would be a very dangerous situation for the U.S. economy, leading to instability and disruption in financial markets. She had earlier emphasized that central banks must remain independent to focus on their core jobs, controlling inflation and supporting the economy. The warning comes amid growing pressure from U.S. President Donald Trump on the Fed. Despite appointing Powell during his first term, Trump has repeatedly criticized him, calling him multiple names for not cutting interest rates. The Fed's current benchmark rate is 4.5%, while Trump has argued it should drop significantly. Markets are closely watching Powell, whose term expires next May, amid concerns that tariffs on imports are pushing inflation upward. Lagarde stressed that the independence of central bank is crucial to avoid politically motivated interest rate decisions that could trigger a boom-bust cycle. Economists argue that political pressure on central banks risks short-term gains followed by long-term inflation and market instability. Central bank autonomy, first institutionalized in the UK with a monetary policy committee in the 1990s, is now designed to ensure sustainable economic growth and financial stability over the long term. In other news, on race to power, France is just days away from a major political showdown. Prime Minister François Bayrou has called a confidence vote on September 8th, a gamble that could cost him his job and plunge the country into instability. The Prime Minister says it's not his own future, but the destiny of France which is at stake. With opposition parties united against his austerity budget, the government is widely expected to lose the vote.
At issue is not the fate of the Prime Minister or of François Bayrou, and not even the fate of the government. At issue is the fate of France.
C'est même pas le destin du gouvernement.
Bayrou wants to slash 44 billion euros in spending to curb France's debt. The plan includes fewer public holidays and a freeze on spending increases. A recent poll shows 7 out of 10 French people want him to lose. Socialists say that the party's decision to oppose Bayrou is final. Trade unions are calling for nationwide demonstrations on September 18th, labeling the draft budget a horror show. Bayrou insists sacrifices are required to secure France's future, but far-left party is saying he is driving the country into chaos. Justice Minister Gérald Darmanin warned that if the government falls, the stability of the Fifth Republic could be at risk. Meanwhile, the far-right National Rally Party looking to seize the opportunity, with polls showing them gaining popularity. The party is demanding snap elections and perhaps hoping for a full majority government following that. France has been deadlocked ever since President Emmanuel Macron's snap election backfired last year, leaving parliament split into three rival blocs. The political paralysis is now spilling in the country. European Central Bank President warned that a collapse of the French government would rattle markets, heightening risks for the Eurozone. As the old saying goes, if France sneezes, whole of Europe catches cold. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing the heat on immigration. Labour Party is at the lowest popularity ratings of this term as the House of Commons convenes for the first time in more than a month. Politics and the national debate over illegal immigration is set to take centre stage in UK. It was perhaps a busy morning at 10 Downing Street. Just before MPs gather in the House of Commons, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer carried out major reshuffle in his team. The big appointments were made in the positions of Chief Economic Advisor, Director of Communication and Principal Private Secretary. This comes hours before Home Secretary scheduled to set out border security and asylum reforms. The Home Secretary will outline reforms to the border security and asylum system. According to reports, Yevit Cooper plans to tighten rules for migrants granted asylum to bring their families to the United Kingdom. Opposition has already floated their counter-proposals to end illegal immigration. Reform UK has promised mass deportations, and the Tories want to revive the Rwanda scheme. Meanwhile, demonstrations continue outside hotels holding migrants. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered outside a hotel in southern England, calling for foreign criminals to be deported. The migrant hotels have become a flashpoint for demonstrations in July after an asylum seeker staying there was charged with sexual assault of a minor. The demonstrations have spread to other parts of Britain as well. Shifting our focus to Bangladesh, as political crisis in the country is far from over, Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus has now held separate meetings with three key political parties of the country. During the meetings with leaders of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party (BNP), the Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami and the National Citizen Party, Yunus discussed the country's overall current situation and the upcoming national election scheduled to take place in February next year. As per reports during the meeting, Yunus asserted his government's commitment to conducting elections in February next year. He warned that there is no alternative to elections and it will be dangerous to think otherwise. In a statement issued by the interim government, they said that all conspiracies, obstructions or attempts to delay or derail the election will be firmly resisted by the interim government. Now, three key political parties in Bangladesh have expressed their views on the upcoming elections. Jamaat-e-Islami is pushing for the implementation of the July Charter and proportional representation elections in both parliamentary houses before the polls. But in contrast, the National Citizen Party wants a General Assembly election. Meanwhile, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the BNP, advocated for elections to be held in the first half of February. Reports also suggest that in the meeting, Jamaat-e-Islami and National Citizen Party both demanded action against Jataya Party like Awami League, but government did comment anything on it. There has been perhaps growing frustration over the interim administration's inability to restore order and curb political bickering. Yunus government had initially proposed an election in April next year, but changed their stance following a meeting with BNP's Tariq Rahman in June. Well, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Hemditi, has been sworn in as the head of the parallel Sudanese government. Now, this move marks a dramatic escalation in the country's 28th-month civil war. Hemditi's forces have established their own presidential council and even appointed a prime minister, as Sudan inches dangerously closer to a de facto partition between RSF-controlled areas and those still under the National Army. According to reports, the ceremony reportedly took place in the city of Nyala, which is located in the conflict-ravaged region of Darfur. It has become the de facto capital for Hemditi's Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. Hemditi's move is seen as a bold challenge to the army's legitimacy. It is pushing Sudan closer to a permanent split, which will further deepen what the UN has already called one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world today. And well, for more on this, our correspondent Louise Oliani has sent us this report from Lagos.
The 28-month-long war between Rapid Support Forces and Sudan National Army has taken a new twist as RSF swore in its leader, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, also known as Hemditi, as head of state, indicating a parallel government in the country. This is extremely worrisome as it points to the country splitting up in two, with an appointed prime minister and a presidential council. This development comes as the Sudanese government held its first cabinet meeting earlier this week since start of the war. Hemditi promised to end wars, fight hunger and bring fair peace, as citizens hope for normalcy to the devastating conflict that has led to unprecedented displacement and hunger crisis. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olani, WION, World is One.
Political turmoil remains rife in Thailand. Rival camps are jostling to fill the power void after the ex-Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatра's ouster. In the latest, political deadlock persists after the opposition failed to decide who to back as the nation's next Prime Minister at the King-making summit. Paetongtarn's Pheu Thai Party and the conservative Bum Chai Thai Party, which abandoned her coalition over the border row, are now courting the People's Party, for that has a stronghold of 143 parliamentary seats. Now, the People's Party has now said that its backing will be conditional on Parliament being dissolved for fresh elections within 4 months, paving the way for yet more political turmoil. The People's Party is due to meet tomorrow again. However, its speaker has now said that its preference was for an early dissolution of Parliament and a new election, that the party has said that it will not be joining the next government. Meanwhile, the Bum Chai Thai Party is fielding its leader, Ontan Chanvirakul. Paetongtarn's Pheu Thai Party's contestant is former state prosecutor Shai Kasim Niti Siri. In an earlier development, Ontan launched a series of negotiations with other political parties aiming to position Bum Chai Thai as the lead party. Bum Chai Thai, with 69 seats of its own, secured the support of 279 members of parliament, giving Anutan a clear edge in the competition to form the next government. As of now, Thailand's government remains in a flux, with the Deputy Prime Minister Phumthai Vichai taking over as the acting Prime Minister along with the caretaker cabinet. All eyes now remain on the decision of the People's Party that could possibly end the deadlock or prolong the uncertainty in Thailand after Paetongtarn Shinawatра's ouster.
242 นายพรหมแดงโชติ
And voting has begun in Guyana, but just hours before the elections, Guyanese police and soldiers was shot at by unidentified persons in Venezuela. That's when they were escorting the boxes. The incident occurred around 2:30 p.m. local time on Sunday in Esquibo region, a territory that remains at the heart of long-standing dispute between Guyana and neighboring Venezuela. Rich in gold, diamonds, forest and oil resources, this area makes up nearly two-thirds of Guyana's land mass. Venezuela argues that the 1899 arbitral award, which gives Esquibo to then British Guyana, was fraudulent and imposed by colonial powers. It claims that the decision was influenced by collusion between Britain and Russia and that Venezuela was not fairly represented. In their view, Esquibo was a part of Spanish Venezuela before colonization, and Britain illegally expanded its territory westward in the 19th century. Venezuela calls Esquibo a stolen land. Despite military tensions, Guyanese citizens are voting in what is touted to be a critical election that will shape the future of the country's vast oil wealth. Incumbent President Irfan Ali is seeking re-election, facing stiff challenges from opposition leader Aubrey Norton of the APNU and newcomer Azraddin Mohammed, a billionaire businessman who launched his own party.
Guyana has three great enemies. One, Venezuela. Two, the PPP. And three, poverty. We will rid the society of our enemies.
Citizens are demanding a new leader, saying that the current administration has failed to protect national sovereignty.
Guyana need a change. We need a change for better. We need a better leader. We need a leader that's concerned about the people of Guyana. Not just a leader who just concerned about friends and family, getting friends and family richer and richer, and the people of Guyana just be living poorer and poorer all the time.
With that, we slip into a very short break. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is WION World is One. We're glad you're watching. Time now for fine print American Joker. Let's begin with the headlines. Taliban authorities rush in rescue teams to quake-hit regions of eastern Afghanistan, with scores transported to hospitals in provincial capital Jalalabad. At least 800 people are feared dead in the magnitude 6th earthquake in the northeastern Kunar province. Big signals of Modi Xi push